Well, back by popular demand, my Raw reviews have returned. So I put out a poll yesterday, early on yesterday, and I asked people, do you miss the Raw reviews? We just got back into WWE content, and I made the recent decision to turn this channel into an entire wrestling channel. So if you guys have been enjoying the gaming and movie reviews, you could go subscribe to the Brad Games, which is my old The Brad Rants channel. I've decided to rechristen it, redesign it, rebuild. So I already started off by posting one of my reviews on here, the Link's Awakening review. So if you haven't ever checked that out here on this channel, it's a great time to go check that out because we're going to be putting more content on there. It's time that I get use out of that almost dormant channel that I haven't used in 2 years and put it to good use. We're not going to fight against the algorithm anymore. We're going to do things smartly here on the Brad Rules channel, on my main channel, so we finally grow and we get the goals that we're looking for. And the only way I'm going to achieve that is by separating the content, because as much as it pains me, variety channels don't do well. There's not really one channel with variety that you can show me that does well. So, with that in mind, let's get down to the review. So, I returned to Raw reviews, and it's like I never left. It's like I never left, guys. And what makes it funny is this is the lowest rated Raw of the entire year that I'm reviewing right here. So isn't it amazing? The 1 week, and I didn't do it on purpose. You can see I put the poll out. Go check it out. Go to my YouTube main page if you didn't see the posting originally in your feed, and go see it. I click on the community tab to check out the poll. If you still want to vote in it, that's fine, but it's pretty much been decided already. Most people want to see the reviews return, and they're back. So, of course, we can't return and have a truly great show. So people were saying that the show hasn't improved. There is definitely small improvements on this show. Small ones, microscopic ones that are barely visible to the untrained eye. But there are some efforts. There has been some effort made to storytelling, although not a lot, because I could look at my notes here, and there's just not a lot here. So we kick off the show, and if you're asking yourselves, how do you make sure you lose viewers right away? How can we possibly make this the lowest rated Raw of the year? How can we get that done? Let's start off with the women. And let's not even start off with the popular women. So they have Paige in there. And I think back to like Paige and that movie that they released of her. And I don't mean to knock her and everything, but I liked Paige. I thought she was great until Sasha Banks ended her career unceremoniously. But she never reached the level that she should have. And that's due to creative. That's due to a lot of things. But, I'm seeing Paige here, and they always try to present Paige as an important figure. But then again, we have to remember that Paige wasn't even there that long. She didn't even really get a chance to do anything really that memorable. The Paige AJ feud is probably what most people bring up. That's what I see on Instagram, what most people talk about, and it wasn't even that great. So that kind of tells you right there. So I had stopped watching at this point, but Paige had introduced these two, Asuka and Kairi Sane, and Kairi Sane was a singles wrestler, so they do what they do with everybody that they bring up from NXT. Immediately put them in a tag team, right? That's what they did with Aleister Black. That's what they did with Ricochet. So that's what they're doing here. Hey, remember when Asuka won the Royal Rumble? Yeah, remember that when, everyone was saying that she was going to take over the women's division. And I feel so sorry for her. Like, now, not that I don't like the face paint and everything and them trying to make them look a bit more heelish. I do like the mist, that she's using the Tajiri move, or the Muda move. You could also, that's also a great Muda move that most people don't know. So she spits the mist into Paige's face. Becky comes out to make the save, and we have Becky Lynch and Kairi Sane. And like right away, it's like Paige was supposed to be the manager of these two girls, but for some reason she was never there for them. Which, that wouldn't have even made any sense to really have Paige out there with them. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe she could have been the mouthpiece for them. But we have too many teams that can't talk. So do we really, and already the advocate thing is already played out with Paul Heyman. We don't need another failed experiment like that. So, but, here she comes out and like, if I'm someone that's dropping in, now I know she hasn't been with them because I've been following this from afar. I haven't been, clicking every video on YouTube, but I see that Paige wasn't there and that these girls are pretty much flying by themselves. They won the women's tag titles, and like, so if I'm dropping in and I didn't know anything what was going on, I would have thought that Paige was their manager, but that wasn't the case. She like bailed after like introducing them as a team. So it's like, why even bother bringing her back for this? She they spit in her face, and like I got a feeling that that's probably gonna be the end of it, because it's not like it could even lead to a match or anything like that. So right away, like, what was the point? You have to ask the question. Why would she even care, especially if they've been acting heelish as of late? Why would Paige even care? Like, if she's a babyface, I guess, or, they just bring her back as however they want. So, already I'm confused, we're starting off the show. And first of all, who even cares? Do you care about this tag team? Do you care that Paige is back? Do you care that Becky made the save? Do you cringy Lynch? Stone Cold Cringy Lynch making the save. So, then we're treated to an extra long, extra deluxe cringy Lynch match. And it's, I didn't watch the whole thing, but, it seemed like this was okay for what it was. It didn't seem like a bad match or anything like that. But, cringy Lynch gets the win. And, there you go. Why they're even doing this when they're a tag team? Doesn't like Becky have better things to do being like the women's champion? There's no program for her. She doesn't have anything. They drafted her to Raw only to have her feud with a tag team. Really, like, where's the logic? Where's the sense in any of this? We've got Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy. Now, I actually kind of like this guy. I kind of like the guy's look. I talked about this almost a year ago when they showed him at Survivor Series. And he almost killed that guy, when he pushed him off the rope onto the barricade or whatever it was. Now, Buddy Murphy wins this match. But after we have this... Now, during the Raw Reunion show, I talked about how the 24/7 rule was probably, although flawed, one of the most entertaining things on the show. And I said that R-Truth was doing a genuinely decent job. Not to say that this wasn't goofy, that this wasn't childish or anything like that, but I said there was some entertainment to be had, and I kind of like the throwback to the, to the hardcore title. But then you take a look at this and you realize just how awesome the hardcore title was and just how crappy this is. They do like 20 laps. And all the wrestlers are like all running around like perfectly spaced apart. And you've got Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder and they're all chasing each other around like it's some type of cartoon. Like it's like Scooby Doo, and they're just running through doorways. They're closing the door behind them, coming out of another doorway, and they're all like, and the bad guy will like never catch them. It's kind of like the same deal there. So R-Truth gets involved. They start hitting him, and he's spinning around like he's Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck or, Tom and Jerry or something. He goes back in the ring. Buddy Murphy hits him with the knee. The match is over. And I'm just like, I'm looking at this. What a circus. And, and sometimes there could be some funny, goofy stuff. We've seen it in the past, some hokey things could be funny. The Boogeyman, Big Dick Johnson. There's a few different, like goofy things that they've done, reoccurring things. But this is like every single time that I've watched this now. And keep in mind, I don't watch every single Raw. This is the same thing. Every single night they've been doing the same thing with chasing someone around the ring. Like, who is this entertaining to exactly? Vince? I don't think that Vince even sits there and watches this show. I don't even think he could even watch it, to tell you the truth. It's like, I think Vince might just glance at it real fast and be like, okay, whatever. It's like, it's just something to say that they're doing something to make the illusion that they're giving some type of effort. Hey, what are you complaining about? We gave you a new title, right? We gave you something like the hardcore title. Hey, you guys are always saying you want the Attitude Era. You're always saying that you want that stuff. So here's a piece of the Attitude Era. Except it's not the same title. It's not the same level of attitude. It's not even the same thing, really, besides that the title's being defended 24/7. And they could have, like, why couldn't it be the hardcore title? What would have been the problem with calling it the hardcore title? Well, I mean, that would have just besmirched the whole thing altogether. But why couldn't it be hardcore? What's the problem there? I'm watching, later on the card, Seth Rollins and Eric Rowan going at it with weapons. So I'm not really too sure. Why did we have to name the belt the name of the rule associated with the title? And instead we're getting this goofball, super animated, goofball mania type of skits, and this was just terrible. And the fact that's insulting is that they think people are going to watch this, and they don't assess these ratings. They don't even look at it like, oh well, the ratings have been falling, so maybe we probably shouldn't be doing the same thing over and over, because that means that people don't like it. But I don't know. They're putting it on autopilot, especially because they know they're gonna cash in. They've already cashed in with SmackDown, and they're gonna cash in again in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they've got paid yet, but they're definitely gonna be cashing in when they do that show on Thursday. That's for damn sure. There's no doubt about that. Then we get the AOP, and I haven't been watching these promos, so I don't know. Let me know in the comments if these are the same thing. But every single week in my feed here on YouTube, I see the same thing. The two guys positioned side by side, dressed in suits. And this is what we've been getting. How many times are they going to do these promos in an undisclosed location? You can't even tell where they are. There's no background. God forbid you show them in a location outside of a confined space. It's so boringly shot. Just side by side, they're speaking in their language. It's with subtitles. Once again, who's going to sit here and watch this? Who's honestly going to sit here flipping through the channels and be like, oh wow, this is really exciting. Two guys speaking in a language that I've never even heard of. And not only that, but who are these guys? What should you care about them? I mean, in the subtitles, obviously this is something extremely scripted. How could anyone be engaged by this type of television? If you could even call it that. Is this even television right here? This is paint by the numbers. This is, like I said, it's like feeding something into a computer and it being, regurgitated out. That's basically how they've been doing. So, like, this is no change. I'm sorry, but there's no change here. This is the same autopilot style of booking that they've been doing for years now. So, and plus, is one of the guys still injured? Why am I always seeing this? It was like Aleister Black for months and months before SummerSlam. He was just cutting promos, and they're just buying time. They don't know what to do with anybody, so the whole show is buying time. They can't wait until they get to, like, Survivor Series, right? So they know what they want to do with Crown Jewel, make a payday. Then after that, then they're going to have Survivor Series. So that you already know they're going to do Raw versus SmackDown. They're going to be invading Fox. They only drafted everybody a month, like a few weeks ago. But like next week, you're going to see people invading the shows. So it's like a lot of good that draft did. And they're already fighting. People who have only been on the brand for 2 weeks are going to be like having this undying allegiance to their brand. What a joke. I mean, you really think, and you put this all in perspective, and you sit back and you really think about this show and what's on the horizon, and then after Survivor Series, it's going to be the Royal Rumble. God knows who they're going to pick to win that. After this year's disaster, which is soon to be last year's disaster, what's going to be this year's disaster? If this year's disaster was the disaster that it turned out to be, I said it. I said it on the last WrestleMania review that I did. I said I wasn't even sure if I could even watch WrestleMania, but I guess now I'm going to have to, right? Because now this channel is all dedicated to wrestling, and I've separated the two channels. So now I gotta have content for this channel, so I guess I gotta watch that. And as much as it pains me, I'm probably gonna be watching Crown Jewel as well. I might probably have to fast forward through a few things on that show, and unless it ends up being decent. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I highly doubt I'll enjoy it. I'm against the concept of them even going there. But I'm gonna give up on I'm not gonna watch, whatever. I'll just watch it, whatever the case may be. I'm like trying to have like standards here and stuff. I'm just gonna review it. I'm gonna finally see how this Crown Jewel is. I skipped it last year. It looks like I missed out on a total disaster. Probably would have made it for a pretty entertaining review, but we'll have one this year, and we'll see how Hogan versus Flair is. It's gonna probably be like a knockoff Dynamite match. You're gonna have all these guys flipping all over the place, and we haven't even gotten to that part of the show yet. We're gonna be talking about that in a second. So we've got the Street Profits are up next. And this was a pretty good promo from these guys. I was pretty impressed by what I saw. These guys, especially the smaller one, he's got this guy's got the gift of gab. I like what I saw from this guy. And they tried to do that. What were they saying? They want to get some smoke. I don't know what type of reference that they were going for there. I don't think it was like a marijuana reference, but whatever it was, I thought it seemed really lame. And they were like, and the thing is, they don't call an audible. They're like trying to get the crowd into it. The crowd's not into it, because we all know with these goofballs they're not going to get into it. But then again, I'm thinking about like, what are they even saying? So it's like, so why should anyone chant that? So it seems like these guys are some good talkers. They look like they've got personality, and I'm all for that. If there's characters on the show and it's not overly stupid, then I'm all for it. So Street Profits, they get a thumbs up from me, or a side thumbs up because the chant was really stupid. I'm like, what was that? But like I said, entertaining personalities is what this company needs. they're dry as a desert when it comes to them. So at least we got to see that. So that was refreshing. And now we've got Ricochet and Drew McIntyre. And like, I don't even know what to even say here. How do you have a match that almost goes 20 minutes when you're a guy that looks like Ricochet? Now, Ricochet has, for a guy his size, has a pretty good build, but you're in the ring with Drew McIntyre. This guy looks like a monster. He looks like he could rip somebody apart. At one time, they called him the Scottish Psychopath. Like, and I know that didn't they have this guy lose to Cedric Alexander or something like that, like a few months ago? Where's Cedric Alexander? I think he got injured, but whatever the case may be. How is this guy lasting against Drew McIntyre? Not only that, but this guy picks him up for a big razor's edge, dumps him in the corner, buckle bomb style. He should be done. He should have been destroyed. His head bounces off the top turnbuckle. That somehow this guy is fighting back. Several more big moves, big, flippity doodahs from Ricochet. And I'm left there face palming like Picard again because I can't believe what I'm seeing before my eyes. How am I supposed to believe what I'm watching? That this guy could hang in there with Drew McIntyre should be ripping this guy's head off in 5 minutes. It's okay if you want to, have a little bit of a comeback here and there. But, this is what I was saying during my NWA Power review. And if you haven't watched it, go back and see it. This is what they showed on the NW Power was what's missing from Dynamite, Raw, and SmackDown. They need to stop with the constant kickouts. They need to stop with this near fall stuff that's not even near falls. Is it really a near fall when we all know that people are going to kick out? I mean, honestly, it reaches the point of monotony. And you want to see monotony, you watch this match. And you see they have no respect for a guy like Drew McIntyre. No respect at all for a guy that, turned it all around, got himself some mic skills, got himself a total body transformation just so he could return and look even more vicious and sound even more vicious on the mic. It doesn't matter how many good promos he cuts. It doesn't matter how refined his physique looks. They're not going to do anything with this guy. There's no excuse why this guy shouldn't be, in the main events, wrestling for a world championship or being the world champion. People were calling for this last year. Make the guy a champion. What do? You give him a flat match with Roman Reigns. And the dumb thing is, Roman Reigns could have had a match against anybody at WrestleMania. Because we all knew that Roman was just going to come back so he could win a match because it was going to be his returning triumph. And I understand that and I support that. But you used him as the folly, right? You used him as the fall guy. Why? Why would you do that to Drew McIntyre? A guy that it seemed like for a while they were protecting. But then they got this goofy idea to start, feeding him some losses every here and there. And I forgot even who he lost to, which is sad. It shows how forgettable it is. But they've been slowly, hacking away at this guy's credibility. And what did he do to deserve it? He was good? Was that the crime? I mean, I'll never understand this. So let's take a look at the WWE logic here for a moment. It's bad to be short, yet all the guys on the roster are pretty much under 6 foot. But Shorty G, that this guy, we got to embarrass him. We got to make him dress like a goofball, and we got to make sure that we let you know that he's short. We're going to make it his character. We're going to embarrass this guy. So it's bad to be short. But then we look at tall guys, right? Guys that are 6'6" and stuff like that. Yeah. Drew McIntyre, right? Tall guy. Look what we just talked about here. Elias, another tall guy. Look what happened to him. Luke Harper, where is he? Eric Rowan, we'll get to that later on the show. So it doesn't even pay to be a tall guy on the show because they're going to treat you just as bad. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It used to be if if you looked good, good physique, good mic skills, good wrestler, getting over with the crowd, basically everything that Drew McIntyre is, you were guaranteed superstardom, right? The Rock, 6'5", look at him. You know what I'm saying? It speaks for itself. The Undertaker. It doesn't matter how many examples I make because it all comes down to sheer just, ineptness. And not even that. It's just not caring, indifference to the product because they don't care. They have other endeavors that are going to make them money, so they're not even paying attention to any of these details. You think they're sitting there and saying, well, if we have them go 20 minutes with Ricochet, it's going to really affect this credibility. And even that, there's not even a finish. Instead, it's just a run-in from Randy Orton. Does Randy Orton need to come in to save Drew McIntyre? Is that the point we've reached? I mean, it was almost scary because it was almost like they were trying. It was not as pathetic, but it almost showed signs of Jericho versus Darby Allin. Remember that nonsense where Jack Hager had to come. If you don't watch AEW, that's what happened. That was last week's show that they had. Well, not last week's show, but the week before that. So, it's almost like 2 weeks ago. They had this small guy going against Jericho. And it got to the point in the match where Jericho duct tapes the guy's hands behind his back. And you would think that he'd be beating him within an inch of his life. But instead, what happens? The guy's moonsaulting. He's diving out of the ring. Big topes. It was ridiculous. And he did manage to beat him. There was an actual finish because, Hager came out to stop him. He pushed him off the top rope, and Jericho managed to beat him. But do you realize that Chris Jericho had to have help to beat an indie nobody? And his hands were tied behind his back. Not only was that embarrassment, not only was that cringeworthy, but what I saw here reminded me too much of that. Nice RKO from Randy Orton. Ricochet sold it well, but I don't even want to talk about any of these guys anymore. Because this whole segment, this portion of the show, nice RKO, yeah. Thanks for destroying a really talented, deserving individual. What an insult to him. Now he has to go back and think about, how hard he tried to make his comeback to the WWE just so they could crap on him. And this is the story here, right? This is why, I couldn't do these reviews, why I could only do little news items, because this is what they do on every single show. They know that, it doesn't matter if it's smarts or casuals. They must have some idea that this is not what people really want to see. But they figure we don't want to make one guy look strong. I don't know what the excuse is anymore. I don't think they even know, to tell you the truth. Because if you try, how many hours, if you add up all the videos, all the time that we spent here on YouTube having these conversations, all of us here, you could rack your brain trying to figure out, try to get the abacus out, try to get the whiteboard out and come up with all these Albert Einstein equations, why they do the things that they do. And you will never figure it out because it's nonsensical. And you've got a bunch of insane people here. Look how many people they fired. They go Bruce Pritchard, Eric Bischoff, back to Bruce Pritchard. How many people are they going to blow through before they realize that everything is just complete garbo? That's all that it is, and that everything needs to be changed. You need to reboot the whole damn thing like Vince Russo did it to WCW. Remember when they just did a whole reset? They vacated all the titles and they just said like, nah, all this stuff's garbage and just start again. Then we had the Viking Raiders defeating one of these, the Chicago Cubs. What was the point of this? I like. First of all, they're not even in Chicago. They could be mocking them over the World Series, but like they're in St. Louis, right? So, and I had to check that, and that's where they were. So, like, what was the point of doing this? Was there a reason? Was there some type of thing by design here? I mean, this was a really interesting choice to say the least. But anyway, it really shows how completely useless the old 3 hours are to them, because this is like, this to them, this is something that got the thumbs up. This is something that got the green light. I mean, what are we doing here? You know, like, this was probably the cheapest form of heat that we could possibly have. Like, so I don't know how they're supposed to be perceived as faces or as heels. I don't know. They, you know, first of all, this team, how long have they been here? And we haven't gotten any character development out of them. They're Vikings. They look like Vikings. Why don't we get like a you know, an interesting shot of them, maybe like in the mountains or something like that? I mean, something, anything. Just these Vikings just, you know, show up for work for WWE. Like, what are they doing when they're not in the ring? Like, you know, like what is their lifestyle like? These are all interesting ideas that you could explore, but no, we're not gonna do anything with that idea. Like, first of all, like this squash match, like, why are we even doing this here? We know who they are. Other than not having anything to do, like I said, they just want to get through this show as quickly as possible because they're like, ooh, money, right? They got to get to Saudi Arabia as fast as they can. Screw this show. It's complete garbage. No one cares about it. So that's exactly why they're doing that. You know, like they just want to, you know, brush this show off because they can't even be bothered. You know, never mind that, you know, the show is on Thursday, and the last image that we're seeing of their big top tier matches, we saw Cain Velasquez being left laying by Brock Lesnar pathetically, you know, in a medical room, you know, in the nurse's office. And then we Tyson Fury, who, like, I don't even know what kind of heat, because Braun Strowman beat up Drew Gulak. That's how we're going into these two big matches, the two biggest things on the card. So the only thing, you know, that has like any sort of like proper build behind it would be Seth Rollins or The Fiend. And these guys have like barely interacted with each other. It's been some weird on and off every other week type of reaction due to the stupid draft that they did. So, like, you know, you've got the Viking Raiders here, and this is what they choose to do. You know, this is their thing. You know, instead of trying to get Tyson Fury, pay him a little bit of extra money, forget about the fact that they could have pre-taped everything with all the participants, but they're not going to do that. You know, because that would make a little bit too much sense. Oh, that's the Viking Raiders versus the Chicago Cubs. You know, like, what was the point? Then we had Andrade defeating Sin Cara. And the funny thing is, Sin Cara before the match has an interview. And you know what he's asked by, I believe it was Charlie, asked him, so, you know, how are you going to combat Selena? How are you going to counter her at ringside? And conveniently, he's got a valet of his own. What an aptly asked question, right at the right time. Like, how, you know, coincidental that is. And, you know, okay, so he's going to counter her, right? He still loses. He introduces this new girl, Catalina, and he loses anyway. So, like, they just introduced a whole new character who's here to help Sin Cara. Sin Cara should just fire her right away because the thing is, or break up with her, whatever the case may be, because he just lost again. So, like, you introduced this new character that wasn't even any help. She gets like one shot in on Zelina. Okay, great. Well, your man still lost the match. Like, so you see what that did, and they do this all the time. Stuff like this. You know, they think that maybe that one shot that the girl got in on Zelina is enough. And not only that, but how many times have we gone back to this feud? You really got to keep this in perspective. How long has it been since I've watched Raw consistently? And before I left, wasn't this feud still going on? You know, Andrade had the on again, off again thing with Mysterio. Then it was with Sin Cara. It's like, why, why do they keep going back to this? Like, if you don't have anything for this guy, it looks ridiculous. How could they not have anything for him is what I need to ask. How is it that they have always things for Seth Rollins, but all these other people that have proven to have better personalities, better looks, everything, and we still have that goofball at the top? I'll never get it. It really is 100% on creative McMahon just for not caring, because it's indifference. This stuff would never make it to TV if someone actually cared. If someone actually gave a care, we wouldn't be getting garbage like this. Then you've got Natalya and Charlotte defeating the Iconics. I don't know how they could have killed Charlotte this badly. How do you take this super athletic, super charismatic girl? I don't remember the last time they even gave her a microphone. She was doing so well, and what did they, she'll never recapture quite where she was in 2017 when she was on Raw. It's like they put her on SmackDown. They completely just destroyed any sort of momentum. She didn't even have a lot of momentum to begin with, but whatever she did manage to garner in this wasteland of a company, they just finished her off. I mean, do you not see it? Do you not feel it? And now they're having her tag with Natalya, who to me is always like the biggest rando in the division. They never have anything interesting for Natalya. This character is so like one-dimensional. It's like all we know about Natalya. She's a great wrestler. She's the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. But like no attempt. The last time they attempted to give her a character, she was farting all the time. I mean, so like you kind of see what we're working with here. How do you take Ric Flair's daughter and ruin her this badly? And it's nothing that Charlotte did. If anything, she was the least cringy woman that was in the women's division. But now they've turned her into something where she's just an afterthought. How did this girl get overlooked by cringy Lynch and Bailey? I mean, those two that they're so horrible when it comes to doing their characters. And Charlotte, this really shows you that creative and listening to the fans and everything. And, no one, that's the thing, because these hardcore fans, these goofballs in the audience, they didn't like Charlotte. They liked Becky because she was the female Stone Cold. I mean, and look how that turned out. Half the fan base has completely abandoned her. They don't even care about her. They pretty much agree that she's cringy as hell. And, so I look at this and I get depressed. Also, I have to say, I like the Iconics now. I actually do. Because these girls have proven that they could stay consistent to their characters. And I kind of like the little touches. Peyton Royce kind of yelling out to Billie Kay as she's being woman handled. It's just it's some nice little details there, and I think that they're slowly starting to understand, what it means to be a wrestler, what it means to be a performer. So I mentioned that even earlier in the year, around when they won the tag titles, for during the Elimination Chamber thing. I said, I gave credit where credit was due. I said that these girls are actually, better than they're given credit for. And more than what I was previously giving them credit for. What do we have next? Oh, here we go. Seth Rollins defeats Eric Rowan in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Now, where and how did this come about? Where? Did they just randomly pull a Falls Count Anywhere match out of their behinds? Like, just out of nowhere. Just, whoop, there's one. Now I get it. Let's break this down in WWE logic. Excuse me for one moment. Boop. Let me remove my brain from my head. Place it on the ground. Stomp on it several times. Now let me reinsert it into my cranium. Ah, eureka! It makes sense. What am I? They're going to have a Falls Count Anywhere match at Crown Jewel, so why not have one tonight? And we'll do it, as a warm-up match. Like, do they not realize that is anyone really going to want to watch two Falls Count Anywhere matches in the same week just because it's against someone different? I mean, is that, is that smart booking? Does that make? I think it makes perfect sense to them. Yeah, because that's how they view it. They've done this before. It's like when they're doing the tag match on SmackDown. Well, it's not 5-on-5, it's 3-on-3, and we're substituting one guy. It's like, do they not realize that to keep things fresh, they probably shouldn't do the exact same match pretty much, but just in a slightly different way? Is nothing sacred? Like this didn't make any sense. Why are you going to take away everything that could have been special about that match by giving us another Falls Count Anywhere match? So, nothing against this match. Well, yeah, there are a few things against this match because, once again, there was way too many things that should have killed Seth Rollins, but there he is again, kicking out everything, right? He's getting slammed into the turnbuckle post. He's getting, tossed all around, smashed with all weapons. And Seth Rollins is like throwing this guy into the steel steps. Is he really throwing a 300+ pound guy into the step? Am I supposed to sit here and believe what I'm seeing? Apparently so. Apparently I am. So, Seth Rollins has got superhuman strength. How? How do they put this down on paper and not realize that Seth Rollins needs to be the underdog? And and people will point to the finish, which was a complete ripoff of Sunday Night Heat, of Halftime Heat between The Rock and Mankind with the empty arena match. And I think almost anyone my age probably remembers that great classic match. And not being sarcastic there, that was a great match. And if you compare these two matches, this one's a complete joke. But you want to know what's funny? You know what's really funny? They actually did more in this match. More spots and stuff like that. But it still wasn't as good. You know why? Because it wasn't. Because more moves and more spots don't make a great match. You know what does? The pacing, the participants involved, the small little details of how these people did things, The Rock and, Mankind exchanging words during the match, the great commentary that was provided. So, there is quite a drastic difference. But people, of course, Jim Cornette says something like there's like a 7-year rule or something that you could use the same wrestling angle as long as you wait like 5 to 7. I never believed in that. I still think it's a ripoff no matter what, unless you're doing it 30 years later, then that's when the spot becomes completely irrelevant, because at that point you should have already, we're doing something from now over 20 years ago because they can't think of anything else, where he pins him with the forklift. And the funny thing is, you know what I found really hilarious? That Mankind, Mick Foley knew how to operate a forklift, and Seth Rollins doesn't know how to do it. But then, like, the guy who's supposed to be operating can't even figure it out either. So then Rollins then, like, breaks that whole thing of how he's, like, trying to force the guy to do it. And he does know how to do it. So we're all like, can they not even, like, go 2 seconds without stepping in it? Like, just Seth Rollins, like, oh my God. Like, and the thing is, like, Eric Rowan just got drafted to Raw. He's this big dominant guy. I mean, look at him compared to Seth Rollins. And here we are, like, and he's like manhandling. Like, I didn't even think he really needed to pin him with the forklift. I guess the problem was he just couldn't keep him down. But instead of having, like, he's like stomping this guy, Eric Rowan is like, he was looking prone. He was looking vulnerable at many points during this match, which shouldn't be. Whatever they did to him on SmackDown could be, like, erased from the record. He could be a whole new guy due to the draft. That's something that could be, something that they could use the draft for reawakening people that they failed on the previous show. Even if it is people, the same people watching, most likely. Or a portion of it anyway. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, once again, they did way too much. They did 1,000 different things, one move after the other. And, like I said, it wasn't a bad match. They did do a lot. It was definitely different. People are accusing them of stealing from AEW with the Concourse Battle because, they went near the merchandise stands and everything. So, but it's not like WWE was not the first ones to do it, because they actually were. They were the first ones to actually do that outside the arena stuff. Okay? Maybe WCW might have did stuff with the NWO, but like during a hardcore match, they were actually the first ones to do it. Aleister Black doesn't have a match, so what's he going to do? He's going to just sit back there and cut another boring, pointless promo. Like, I don't get it. Wasn't this where he was at the beginning of the year? Like, or halfway through the year? He finally gets a match, and here he is sitting on the sidelines again, being a bench warmer. AJ Styles defeated Humberto Carrillo. This guy comes out of nowhere, just another NXT call-up. And the guy is talented and everything, but once again, no establishment made to his character. We see a little segment backstage before the match, but like, once again, who is this guy? Comes in there wearing a Power Ranger like outfit. I guess after Seth Rollins' outfit got banned, I guess Humberto is gonna try his hand at the same outfit. So, once again, not like a bad match or anything, but this guy is, he's looking pretty similar. He's not really standing out when you've already had Ricochet flipping and flying like for 20 minutes. And you've got all these other guys doing all the same stuff, and and I've been watching Dynamite, and I've been watching SmackDown, and I'm already watching Ali and stuff, and everyone's hitting 450s, and like they don't need Humberto. And first of all, they already have an Humberto. His name is Andrade. They can't even use this guy right. The unmasked luchador. Yeah, they got Andrade. And quite frankly, when he did have a character, first of all, I like his look better than Humberto. Not to say that this guy is bad. I don't know enough about him, but why do we need this guy when we already have another guy that's pretty similar in a lot of ways? He's already doing the luchador style. He could already bring that Latin flavor, and already somebody, with the accent. And here we go again. There you go. We've got another similar character that's not going to stand out. It's going to be another potentially failed career. And, here's the funny thing about this. AJ beats him, so this is 2 weeks in a row. Prior, last week we had him losing to Seth Rollins. So, like, this guy just debuted. It was the same thing, like, with Sin Cara's valet, Catalina. They just debuted these people, and they're not looking very impressive. Now, you could say, oh, he had a good match. That was the same thing they did with Andrade. They put him in there with AJ Styles, right? Didn't they do that, like, for his first or second match? And then, when he came to the main roster, and they're like, oh, he's over because he had a good match with them. No, I'm sorry, but you don't get over by having good matches. Stone Cold didn't get over by having good matches. The Rock didn't get over by having good matches. The Undertaker didn't get over by having good matches. That Hulk Hogan didn't get over by having good matches. Nobody who was truly over got over. Funny about something here, how did Kane get over? And he didn't even have a match. All he had to do was appear and rip a door off a cage. And he was over for the rest of his days. I mean, like, do you see? Do I really need to make it? I know, he's mentioning the Attitude Era again. No, I also mentioned the 80s as well, because I did say Hogan. Also the Ultimate Warrior, the Macho Man. Need I go on? Do I need to make 1,001 examples? Let's take another example. Carlito. How did that guy get over? I hear WWE wants him back too, by biting into an apple and spitting at people. I mean, like, how did Mr. Anderson, who's on NWA Power, Mr. Kennedy, how did he get over? By yelling into a mic. Do you not see that these, like, people that have become, like, iconic or even close to iconic and, got over with the crowd, that it didn't matter what moves they did in the ring. It didn't matter if someone got on top of the top rope and did a flip. Do you realize that? Of course you don't, because this is a world ruled by the smarks, and that's all they care about, right? Good matches is what gets people over. Go ahead, listen to Meltzer, because he's always been right. We're talking about a guy who said that the Attitude Era wasn't good and that it wasn't working back in the day. I mean, what a joke. What an absolute joke. And I don't mean to, like, this is not channel that Umberto Carrillo or anything. Like I said, the guy is talented. He got a lot of hang time when he did that springboard arm drag. He's impressive. He's a good lucha style wrestler. But like I said, we've already got someone who does it, and he has more personality. So why does this guy need to be called up? You already have all these other call-ups. Right before the match, Aleister Black, he was a call-up. What are you doing with him? Nothing. But you can find time for Ricochet to go 20 minutes against a guy who should be beating the tar out of him. And then we have King's Court. And this is, like, really odd that they saved this to last. Now, like, I get it, and this is, like, what people said, that this is the change. And I know when people were saying that the show has changed and got better, they're probably referring to this. And I will say it is an interesting angle. They're doing something here. They're trying to tell a story, right? That this is, first of all, since I haven't done a Raw review in a long time, we should probably get some perspective here, right? We should probably put everything into the proper perspective here for us. So let's go back in time about a month or two, and that you had this really weird, uncomfortable cuck storyline with Mike Bennett, aka Mike Kanellis, and this guy is probably going to go to AEW. He hasn't been on TV. He's asked for his release. I don't think they've even granted it. But they brought out Rusev, and Maria tried telling Mike that it wasn't, that he thought that he impregnated Maria, and he thought that the kid that she was carrying was his, but she was saying that it was someone else. And so what she did is she brought out Rusev, and then somehow, some way, this mutated, and they took both of them off TV, and then they took Rusev and they put him in a position um, where he took Mike Bennett's spot, but not with Maria. They put it with his real life wife Lana, and made like Lashley was cheating on her. That Lana was cheating on Rusev with Lashley rather, and like this really showed that like they were doing damage control, and I get that, fine, you wanted to tell one of these types of stories, so you're gonna tell this type of story, and I get it. I'll give Heyman all the credit because I'm pretty sure this is Paul Heyman's idea. He is going for an attempt at Crash TV. He's going for a little bit of attitude. But like this is not the type of story that we got in the Attitude Era. Like when they did relationships. Go back on the network and go watch what they did with Mark Henry and China, and you'll see how they were able to do some things that were like uncomfortable, but they were funny. This is just uncomfortable because I did not like this whole style that they're doing here. So, they advertise this as divorce court, and I thought that maybe they were going to show them going into like an actual courtroom, and I was like, this could be a little bit hokey, but it might be a little bit fun. I'm going to try to keep an open mind, and like try to like, see what WWE has to offer me. So, of course, they don't have a lot to offer because this is actually the King's Court. This is Jerry the King Lawler's segment. I'm happy that they've given the King a segment. I'm happy that, that the King is a commentator, because that's another thing we didn't talk about on the show. Just how bad the commentary is. Those two goofballs on there, what's his name, Vic Joseph and the other guy, they sound like Michael Cole clones. Like, the guys' voices are not even distinguishable. And that might be because, this is the first time me watching one of these shows in a while. Like, but they all say the same stuff that Michael Cole does on SmackDown. They sound the same exact way. So, like, at least the King kind of offsets that nonsense because he has his own style and he still gets to do his style somewhat. But here's the deal here. So, I'll give her credit. Lana did an okay job here, with the acting. It's not like it was great or anything like that, but she held her own. And, they definitely went for Mark Henry stuff here. She accused him of being a sex addict. He wanted sex all the time, and she's, like, unhappy about that. And, like, so it doesn't make any sense. So why would she be with Bobby Lashley? And, like, 2 weeks ago, they showed them in bed together. So, like, also, to me, this is, like, if this is Heyman's idea, this is, like, an idea that would have been, that probably an 11-year-old would come up with. When they learned about like intercourse for the first time, like it really was just like talking about it all the time, using it in like weird conversations, and like just all around it just seeming kind of goofy and childish and kindergartenish, and just very sophomoric. And we really saw here in this segment that if this was Heyman, he's not really that much better than Vince McMahon when it comes to this type of immature stuff, because this was really, it was immature. It didn't come off as adult. It didn't come off as like gripping or anything. I can't implore you enough to go watch the Mark Henry stuff during 1999, what they were doing with him in China, and even after that. That was more believable. That was more adult. That was something where there was more bite to it. So she's out there alone, and then Lashley comes out, and everyone's like saying like Rusev was like unapologetic about it and everything, because now he's viewed as this sex addict character. So now everyone's getting behind him, just like. So that's what's going to get him over. Like, you're embarrassing this guy. So let's just cut to the end here. So Lashley comes out. Rusev is actually beating up Lashley. So I'm like, oh, okay, so now he's getting his revenge. So, at least he's getting some of his heat back. He's not looking so much like a cuck in this angle. And then what do they go ahead and do? What happens next? Then they have Lana come up from behind, hits him with a kendo stick. Rusev is no-selling it. There's no problem with that. But then Lashley turns the tables, gets him down on the mat, and then they start kissing over him. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I don't like this. It's really uncomforting, and I get it. That's probably what Heyman is going for here. But, like, I mean, this is kind of like to the point where I'm like, I'm not being entertained here. And judging by the ratings, no one else really found it entertaining enough to tune in or to call their friends or anything. Like, this was just, it was like a really, like, creepy, just something that you just don't want to see. And I feel like this is more like they have something against Rusev. They don't like him. He said something, or whatever the case may be, whatever petty thing it is with McMahon, but they're burying him. They're using this to bury him. And I think just about everyone has said it, like, not to work with your wife in an angle. It never turns out good. And, well, there you go. I mean, like, this is another example here. Someone working with their wife. Rusev is probably looking worse than he did. He should go back to jobbing in 15 seconds at SummerSlam again. Because this right here, I rather that than this. This is just making the guy look like a total goof. I mean, not only that, but it's they're like robbing the guy of his manhood. They're like making his wife, make out with someone else in front of him, like not even in front of him, but standing on top of him after they've been completely burying these guys for years and years. The Rusev Day thing gets over with the live crowd. They make sure that they bury that too. I mean, they got something against this guy. Everyone always uses the example, and I do too. This guy came out on a tank back in 2006 or 2005 rather, and now we fast forward almost 5 years, and look where we're at with Rusev. This is just, it's mind blowing to say the least. Overall, like, this show, it wasn't like 100% like really bad, but it was pretty bad still. I mean, like, the Falls Count Anywhere is a decent match. This last segment, I mean, they tried to have something there, but I just don't think anybody wants this, including me. I rather just, if you're going to do a relationship angle, do a normal one. That doesn't make someone look so horrible, like, and make them look like complete worthless garbage. I enjoyed the Street Profits promo. I thought that they impressed there. The AJ and Humberto Carrillo put on a decent match, but like I said, there's no need for another guy like this. So really, like, overall, this was a pretty bad show. There wasn't a lot of redeemable factors. There was nothing blowing my mind. Guys, welcome back to Raw Reviews, right? Where everything is super cringy, terrible, and horrible. And this show, well, I guess maybe it was better than the last episode of Raw I reviewed. What was the last one I did? The Raw Reunion? I guess it might have been a little bit better than that, because that was really bad. And so, anyway, guys, so I hope you all enjoyed the review. Please let me know what you think down below about the return to Raw Reviews here on this channel. And also, what do you think of the idea of this channel being separated into 2 channels? Like I said, go subscribe to the Brad Games if you want gaming and movie content and other things like that. And this will be a sole wrestling channel going forward. So I hope you guys are excited about that. You're on board with that idea, because I think it makes a lot of sense. So click that bell if you haven't already, so you get notifications when I post all my new videos. And guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.